Well, thank you so much for asking me to come speak to you this morning. I hope you're all awake because I'm about to put you to sleep, probably, because I'm going to talk about access to information and the background of POSDA. I wasn't really given a topic, so I decided to do whatever I wanted. Anyway, all right, so again, I'm going to talk about access to information because that is something that's near and dear to my heart. This is why I do what I do. Many of you may not know that, so I do want to talk about that. I'll briefly talk about the clearinghouse movement. I actually could talk about that for a long time, but I won't do that to you. I promise I will not do that to you. We'll talk about POSDA, POSDA services. Using POSDA a little bit. I took some of that out because I'm going to make the assumption that at least a good portion of you know how to use POSDA, so I don't want to show you all that. But supposedly I'm hooked up to the internet, so if you want to see some more of that, I can do it. I'm going to talk about POSDA online mapping, in particular our project with the PADEP, the Mind Mapping Atlas. I think that's been a really important project, and we're so happy to do it, so I do want to talk about that. And a little bit about trends and future plans. So, does anybody have trouble hearing me? Can you hear me?
Maurie?
Yes.
You might want to use stage podium.
I'm really...
So the camera can...
Oh, the camera. I'm such a walker, though. That goes against my...
Oh, good. Just yell loud.
Can the camera follow me?
A little bit. We'll get it.
All right. Oh, I walk when I talk. Okay, well, I'll do my best to stay back here. I feel imprisoned back here. All right. Sorry. Tom, you know exactly what I mean, don't you? I know you do. All right. So I don't know how many of you know this, but see, I can't help myself. But we are a very unique country, or we are very, very lucky in that we have a history going back to the Constitution of the idea of access to information and the people's right to know, right? So we don't think about it a lot because we have it. We actually have access to more information, more government information than any other country in the world, including the westernized countries of Europe. And this all goes back to our former president and my friend, James Madison. Good things and bad things about him. But this is really where this idea comes from. So when people talk about free access to information and the public's right to know, it goes back to James Madison. He said, knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and the people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power that knowledge gives. A popular government without popular information or the means of acquiring it is but a prologue to a farce or a tragedy, or perhaps both. So that's why I do what I do. All right, so a little bit about me, not that you need to know about me, but I want you guys to know a little bit about why we do this project. I actually started my career at the Penn State University libraries, so I was a librarian. I know, doesn't that sound exciting? What's the first thing you think of when you think of libraries, librarians?
The Dewey Decimal System.
The Dewey Decimal System? Okay, anything else? What? Quiet? Quiet, yeah, this does not fit me at all. This is why I don't do it anymore, I think. What else? Did anybody watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
What happens to George's wife if he doesn't live? What's her fate? She's a librarian. This is the horrible, horrible thing that happens. So I make my children watch that movie every year, and they laugh out loud when they see what happens to Mary at the library. But anyway, so I started my career at the Penn State University libraries in the government documents and maps department, and I must tell you that that was a beautiful, amazing, fantastic collection. And the maps, paper maps at this time, it was amazing. Unfortunately, it's kind of been culled a little bit. I'm a little upset about that. I still like paper maps. But from there, I went to the University of Illinois at Chicago, the Daley Library, which is actually named, if you know anything about Chicago, after old Mayor Daley. He was a bad dude. He was bad. But we named our library after him anyway. Because supposedly we were going to get his papers. Can you imagine how many papers he actually kept? But I was lucky to be there. Even though they didn't have the collection that Penn State had, they had a lot of interest in doing things that were new. So imagine in 1992, you're at a library that doesn't have a great historic collection, but has a real interest in doing things that are new. So what's happening in 1992 that would be new? Are any of you my age? Okay. What do you think was happening?
Digital cataloging.
Okay, personal computers, digital cataloging.
Internet.
The internet. The internet was suddenly starting to become publicly accessible. And I had a dean who just couldn't wait to make her mark. And that was great for me, because my job was to go out and work with the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, and any government agency I could get my hands on to get data from them. Right? It was fun. It was exciting, actually. Particularly exciting when I went to Chicago Fire Department, and I said, oh, we're looking for data from your department, and wondering if you would be willing to share with us. And they said, can you please wait in the other room? And they sat me down, and they said, just give the captain a few minutes. So the captain of the fire department comes out. He's about 6'5", fully dressed in his, dress blues with his hat on, everything. Man, he was so intimidating. And he said, why do you want our information? And I said, oh, well, we're going to every agency trying to get data so we can make it accessible. And he said, are you a terrorist? I was pretty young then, and I was like, no, this is just what we're trying to do. And he was like, we don't share our data. It could be used against us. I'm like, okay. Anyway, but we also worked, one of the first government agencies, U.S. government agencies, to ever put data online was the U.S. Department of State. So we were very lucky to work with them, and we actually started putting their data online. It was something called DOSFAN, believe it or not, Department of State Foreign Affairs Network. So that's kind of my background. And again, I wanted you, this is actually a modern view of what we used to look at. This is how you used to get data. Back in the old days, you'd have to go to each one of these directories. It was very hard to search for stuff. What a nightmare. Anyway, we're so lucky now. And so something else was happening around this time. So GIS used to be kind of the realm of ArcInfo. And you had to be pretty smart to use ArcInfo. I'm sorry to say it. I found it very difficult to use. You needed to know some command line programming. And you needed some pretty good computing power, and at that time we didn't really have that. But in 1995, ArcView came out. Whether you're Esri, I think we can call it Esri now, right? You can call it Esri now? It's Esri, right? I always say it the opposite way of how it's supposed to be said. Whether you're an Esri person or you use some other software, it doesn't matter to me. What was going on at this time is that suddenly GIS software and this type of software became publicly accessible, and it could be used by many people, not just people who knew how to program. We had a graphical user interface suddenly that allowed us to do a lot more. So also at this time, we had the clearinghouse movement. Don't worry, this is only one slide. But you had governments wanting to put their digital data out there, particularly the USGS wanted to put their DEMs and their DOQQs, what they were called at that time. Boy, I remember those. And they wanted to make them accessible, but they wanted to make them accessible online, because we used to get them on CD. And if you can imagine getting the DOQQs, or aerial photography, on CD, I had boxes and boxes of these crazy things. Oh, pain that was. Slow computers, everything was wrong. Anyway, so the Federal Geographic Data Committee was started at this time. This was also during, I think, President Clinton's time, if I remember correctly. So we had Al Gore, who invented the internet, as we all know, saying we've got to put data out there. So all of these things kind of converged at the same time, which was great for me, certainly. And so I was not there at the time, but in 1995, Penn State University approached the Department of Environmental Protection in Pennsylvania. Penn State was doing a lot of data work for DEP at that time, and said, why don't we put your data out on the internet? And so in 1996, Positive One. I did not name it. I will not take responsibility for that name at all. It came before me. I don't know what I would have called it. It works, I guess, right? So my question is, how many of you have used Positive? Okay. Yay, I don't have to talk anymore. All right, so what do you use it for? data. What kind of data? People actually use it for the tutorials, believe it or not. It's fun. Well, and to cite the publications, which scares me because I think I messed those up. But what else? What kind of data are you using?
Coal data, coal mining data.
Coal mining data. What else?
Historical aerial imagery.
Aerial photography? Okay. Contours. Yay. All right. All right. LiDAR. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So just a little background on POSDA. Again, started with Penn State and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. It is now a cooperative project of the Governor's Office of Administration. There's so many things to say in this line here. I'm just going to avoid some of it. And the institute where I work. So we're now working together with the Governor's Office. Penn State, we're also very lucky to work at Penn State. Not that I want to talk too much about Penn State, but they also provide us with a lot of things like storage and things that we have not been able to buy for a very long time on our contract. Our budget was cut in about half a few years ago. Anyway, so we're officially the Public Geospatial Data Clearinghouse, and we are celebrating our 19th year this year, which is amazing to me. I'm very happy that it's lasted this long. We started with 35 data sets. Most of those were topographic maps from the USGS and some DEMs and a couple of files from the DEP. We do try to be a user-centered data clearinghouse. Some of you may disagree with me on that, but I'll talk a little bit about some changes that are coming up. That's our staff. There are actually 2.75 of us because we don't work full-time on this. I have 2 half-time people, and then James and I are the ones who work the most on the project. And basically our purpose is to provide free access to data. And throughout my time with POSDA, there have been many people who said, oh, why don't you create a cooperative like New York? Or why don't you charge? And that's the first thing that would send me away because of my background. And that's why I told you about that. Because people have said that before, and I think that's so wrong. But we're here to provide free access to data for you. We are very lucky in Pennsylvania, very lucky because we have people who want to share. Some people don't want to share, but our state agencies, we have nonprofit organizations, we have some local governments who actually really believe in sharing. So we also create metadata, your favorite thing, I know that. You guys love metadata. You know when you love metadata, you know you love it, because why? Why do you actually? Steve, why do you love metadata? You don't love metadata. Oh, you're just too busy flying planes, right? Who? That's right. Thank you. Who? What? Marijuana. I mean, you need to know that. I get questions all the time. When was this data made? How did they make it? Right? People will send me emails and write me these long emails about it. And I'm like, well, it's in the metadata, but that's okay. You know, that's why we have it. This is what we do. So we provide data storage, we provide access to the data, we create metadata, we do some metadata training, we work with agencies and other organizations to help them provide access to their data. Some people think it's really complicated to share data. It's not. We do presentations and we provide a lot of user assistance. So we actually get probably about 25 to 30 calls, emails a day from people about, sometimes because they just didn't read the metadata. We do some other things. We also work on PA-GIS Day, the Central PA-GIS Day, the PA-GIS Conference, the Northwest PA-GIS Conference. We've done work with USGS on their hydro update survey this year. Work with the PA-VIEW program with Dr. Tom Mueller here. We also work with the Giant Map of Pennsylvania, which I'm going to show you. We've done the Geography Bee, a whole bunch of things like that. And I just wanted to show you the Giant Map of Pennsylvania in case you haven't seen it. Has anyone seen it yet? Yeah, it's super cool. It's just amazing. It's huge. It's huge. It's a 20-foot by 30-foot map of Pennsylvania. And Jan Smith at Shippensburg and a number of other partners worked on this. And it's, can you imagine that? It's huge. So one of them hangs in the state library right now, but they have 3 that travel around the state to schools and stuff. So I like to share that because I think it's a great, amazingly, I think a really, really cool map. So we have lots of partners, federal, state, and local governments. We have nonprofit entities. We have some academic institutions that provide data. We don't have specific data requirements. I won't tell you how to share your data with us. We'll take it any way you want to give it to us. So people ask a lot about data updates. How often does data get updated on POSDA? It depends on the provider. It depends on the provider. So we get monthly updates from some organizations. We get quarterly updates from others. We get annual updates from others. It really depends on the needs of the provider. We don't charge anything, and I think that number has gone up just recently. So we're probably about 70 terabytes worth of data on POSDA. Okay, it's a lot of data to store. So these are just the steps, and this is on POSDA. If you know anyone or you want to share data, all you have to do is call me or send me an email. It's really easy. That takes about 10 seconds. And some people still send DVDs, but we get external hard drives, or we'll send you a hard drive. You can send it back to us. It's very easy to do. There are not a lot of hoops that we make you jump through. And we will create metadata for you if you don't have it. And they're just a list of some of our agencies and data providers. Actually, a lot more than that, but those are the ones that I just picked up. So our users are from all over. Obviously, you folks, the energy industry has really dominated the use for the last few years. It's been amazing, amazing. Marcellus has brought in a lot of business, I guess you would say, a lot of traffic for us. And also on the flip side, you have people who are now even more interested in environmental conservation, economic development initiatives. I mean, the list goes on. So the use has really skyrocketed. These are from fiscal year 2013-14. We did the calendar year ones, but those were not available at the time I did this. So we have 71 million plus hits. We have almost 2 million data sets downloaded. That's quite a bit of data. Our map services, 57 million users of those, or uses of those, and just one application was used 6 million times. So I think that, having free access to data pays off. People are really using it. So everybody knows what map services are? Yeah, no one lets me explain that. If my technical folks were here, they'd be like, don't explain that. We don't know how they work. They don't let me do a lot anymore. Things have become really different. Actually, that reminds me, because we used to hire people who were just GIS people, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They knew how to use GIS software. And one of the things I've really seen change in the last few years is that we have to hire people who also are programmers. And I also have to find people who are database administrators and system administrators, because we have to do all of those things too. But all of you know what these are. We have map services for almost all of the data that we receive. There are a few random exceptions. I can't even think of what they are. But our process is we put data up on the FTP site. We create a map service for it. We create a KML for it, so it can be used with Google Earth as well. So we make sure we go through the process like that on all of our data. How many of you have used this, the data previewer? Oh, I'm so sorry. James is in here. It's his favorite thing. He would demo it for you. I think I left it in here. One of the other things we want to make sure we do is that at least give some GIS capability to people who don't have GIS software, or people who just want to answer a very quick question. So, for example, the data previewer, you bring up oil and gas wells on POSDA. You can click on preview data. It'll bring up this data set for you. You click on one of those dots and it gives you some basic information about that data set. You don't have to download it. You can actually find information out. This is a very popular application, again, with people who don't have access to GIS data. Also people who want to know stuff about, it's my favorite one, we get this question almost every day, traffic counts. How many people drive by my road on an annual, drive by my house on an annual basis? So we've enabled traffic counts on POSDA so people can answer that question very quickly and easily. That is one of the most popular data sets we have. It's a huge issue now. I look at it all the time because the use of my road has expanded a lot. We also are integrated with Google, so we do create KMLs. We don't create what are called the long version of those. They're quite extensive, but I'll talk about that in a minute. We're going possibly in that direction. So if you don't have GIS software, you just click on View in Google Earth on POSDA, and bam, it comes up. Our online mapping applications, how many of you use the imagery navigator? Oh, okay. many of you tried to use it a couple weeks ago and it didn't work? No one? Oh, good. Okay. Penn State has been going through some growing pains, and it's been causing us some pains in the last few months. They're putting in a high-speed data line and redoing the computing center. Anyway, so the Imagery Navigator was created because we have so much imagery now that we don't know, we couldn't figure out how people would find it. And if you've ever tried to navigate the PA map data on the FTP site, anyone ever tried to do that? Yeah, it's not fun. We told them not to do it that way. Is anyone in here from the PA map program? I'm looking around. Yeah? we told them not to do it that way because no one would ever be able to find it. So we created the Imagery Navigator so that people could find things. So you can go in, you can open it up. I don't remember if I saw this one yet. Just open it up, right-click on it, on the spot you're interested in, and it will tell you what imagery is available for what years. It'll also tell you what elevation data is available for what years. So we have the LiDAR and the imagery and elevation and topographs all in this product. We also have the PA Atlas. And this, again, is a great tool for people who don't have access to GIS software. It allows them to visualize data. You can download the data sets from here as well. And we have almost all the data, statewide data on Postic in this particular application. There's another view of it. If I had my partner here, he'd be going through all of these things with you. And the last one I wanted to talk about was the PA Mind Map Atlas. Certainly, again, one of my favorite projects. And this is an initiative of the Department of Environmental Protection. Our folks here at the California office are the ones who initiated this. We work with them every week, if not daily, on this project. And it allows people to actually see whether or not they have an underground mind map under their house. How many of you have an underground mind map under your house? You all better be raising your hand right now. Because I think we're sitting on top of at least 20 of them right here in this building. And they may not be active, but they're under there. How many of you use this?
Oh, I use constantly.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know if I want to go to. So, it'll take up a lot of time. It'll take a lot of load. Anyway, most of Western Pennsylvania is on top of a mine. So one of the reasons we did this, and one of the reasons DEP wanted to do this, is because people don't have insurance that covers them if their house collapses into the ground, which happened in, was it Mount Oliver? That's around here somewhere? Is that right? Yeah. Happened, I think, last summer or the summer before in Mount Oliver. And if you don't have mine subsidence insurance on your house, you don't get covered. So your house falls in, you lose everything you have because you didn't get mine insurance. And I think the state provides that like flood insurance. This also comes from the 2002 accident when the 18 miners were trapped for 78 hours. And that's when they thought, oh my God, we don't have any information. Where do we get this data? We don't have it out there. And so DEP approached us and said, how can we put this out in the public? We've got to have access to this. So we started in 2012, working with them. Finally, in 2013, we had developed the Atlas, and we expect to have about 100,000 of these underground mine maps available to people by the end of this project. They keep getting more, so the number keeps going up, and we're like, where are we going to put all this stuff? So then it allows you to do an address search. You can click on a point, etc. It allows you to view the map. You can actually use transparency functions so you can see the aerial photography underneath that as well. It's also been integrated with what's called FUMIS. I did not come up with that name either. So this is the online database of mine information. So this connects you to all of the information about the mine. So you have the actual scan map, and you have data and information about the mine with it as well through FUMIS. Okay, that's basically what Western Pennsylvania looks like. So you just open that up, and you're like, wow, my house is sitting on top of a mine. And so in all the pink boxes represent mines. And there are more over on a little bit on the eastern side, but this part of the country, or this part of the state, you've got it. All right, so the next question we had was, where do we go from here? Because I know you guys are getting tired and you want to move on. So about every 5 or 6 years, we do a benchmarking exercise to see where we stand in relation to other clearinghouses, other data access points, etc. And so in 2014, the end of last year, we undertook a benchmarking exercise and looked at a couple of important things that we thought were important. Data search and retrieval functions, applications and visualization tools, open data portal capabilities, and available data. What data is really out there for other states? So my favorite interface really is West Virginia's. I love that interface. It's so nice. It's so nice. They did a great job of that. It's very simple, so I still believe, and I felt this way 5 years ago, that this was the best user interface. The difference between West Virginia and Pennsylvania is they have a lot less data. You're not going to get as many results. But we look at this and we say, we love the way this looks, and I still feel that way. So imagery and LiDAR, the only comparable place we could find was Connecticut. There are some in California, but a lot of it's distributed, and you have to go to multiple different places just to get information for the same location. So we liked Connecticut. Again, it's a little bit awkward. I don't like the interface to it, but in terms of the amount of data that's available, they had similar. So open data, how many of you have been hearing that term? Yeah, open data. It's all over the place in my world. I keep hearing that. People talk about it, So it's very popular. And so I wanted to look at this because we have Esri talking about it. We have all of these, GitHub and all of these so-called open data sites. You have the federal government talking about open data. We're going to create an open data portal. And I was trying to figure out what it meant. And so I asked people who should know, what does open data mean? And I was getting all these different answers. And some of them said, I don't know. I don't know what it means. I went, okay. So based on what I found is, it could mean data in open formats. So data that can be used by multiple software programs. It's not controlled in any way. There are no software-specific specifications. It can mean code. So you have an application that you built. You put your code out there, right? It can be open for other people to adapt and use. It also can refer to data that can be edited online, crowdsourced data. People contribute to it, which worries me sometimes a lot. One example is there was a fire hydrant crowdsourcing event in Philadelphia. Locate your fire hydrant. Won't that be great? But of course, the city of Philadelphia already provides that data. So maybe it was good for verification, but the city of Philadelphia folks said, we actually have that data set and provide access to it, but if you want to comment on it, that's great. I think it's just kind of cool to say. People like to say it. It feels good, it feels different. But the one thing I did find among all of the people that I talked to is that it meant free access to data. It must be freely accessible in some way to the public. And so I thought we're doing okay on that. We have been approached to change what POSIT does, to change it to an open data portal. And I've said, we do that. We already do that. We could add a different format, GeoJSON, okay, we could do that. We could write full-length KMLs, we can do that. But some of the things we did find were that we need to update our website. We haven't done that for a very long time. We actually just moved it to a new server a week or so ago and had to do some recoding because it hasn't been done so long. It doesn't work well with the latest version of IIS, which was a problem. Maybe some minor updates to the graphics and stuff. We don't have a lot of money and time to spend on this kind of stuff, so we don't usually do it. We're looking to use virtual machines. So our map services are being hit so hard that we're just getting overwhelmed. And the machines that are on right now are getting overwhelmed. We've done a lot of testing on that in the last few months, some of it not particularly successful. We're going to do some more over the next month. I think they're going to offer us something like 32 processors or something like that. I mean, it's going to be an incredible option, hopefully, if it works out. We do have to upgrade our computing infrastructure. Some of that's getting old. We have some things that have reached end of life. We're moving stuff around. Story maps. How many of you use those? Tom does? Yeah. Okay. So story maps allows you to tell a story with data. So there's some data sets that it would be kind of interesting to work with, so we looked at that. Again, we're looking at expanding to full KMLs, which will allow people to do some more stuff with them in this GeoJSON format. We haven't done a lot of outreach. It's very rare for us now to do presentations, mostly because we don't have the money to travel. We only go a couple places a year. So maybe working with people a little bit more, I think that's important. Maybe updating our tutorials and potentially mobile applications, which again is really something I would ask you guys to tell us if you need. But we found that there aren't really many organizations that are as big as we are, that have as much data, and certainly that have as much use. And most of them have been around for almost 20 years, so people are used to us. Plus we have this amazing series of partners that share with us and that are willing to share with us, which makes it all possible. If people didn't share data, we would not exist. Again, long-term commitment to this. The state has had a long-term commitment to this. We have such an active user community. It's unbelievable. You guys are unbelievable, except when you get mad at us. And we just have just a vast amount of people who are doing different things, different users, etc. It's really, really amazing. So that's why we still are here. That's why we are still in the place that people look to. We're very lucky with that. We've had a lot of people come to us and say, we want to build a clearinghouse, or we need to change our clearinghouse. Tell us what you do. So we've done a lot with people who are working on those kinds of things. Anyway, so that's it for me. Any questions? Yeah.
Does TOSTA have a 5-year plan for data currency as far as geospatial?
Well, we work with our partners on that. So, for example, if you're asking when data is going to be updated, things like that, we do have different partners who do different things. For example, we have every 5 years, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission does their imagery, so we expect to get that. 2015, they flew it this year. Philadelphia does new imagery every year, so we have a couple years of that coming our way. So it's really dependent on the provider. Was there something in particular you were interested in?
Well, the statewide LiDAR data is pretty old and needs to be-
Yes, yes. And there's a discussion right now about what to do with that. Tom's nodding his head. So we have a number of options. There's some options at DCNR. There's some options with the federal government that are out there that may allow us to do some updating of that. But I don't know any more about any concrete plans. So at this point, there are no concrete plans for that, but they are trying to make that happen. I know that. Yeah.
Have any other counties been approached to provide data similar to Allegheny? Because I noticed they have a lot of data
Yes.
available, but no other counties.
We have Philadelphia, we have Lancaster, we have Chester, we have some from Butler, I can't remember. So there's some random things, but that's when we talk about providing access to data. Pennsylvania counties generally do not provide free access to their data, and there have been a couple of movements back and forth about that. But I think in the last piece of legislation, GIS data was removed from the open data legislation.